The Marvel Cinematic Universe is often described as a creative triumph, a sequence of interconnected films that captured audience attention for more than a decade, generated unprecedented box office returns, and reshaped popular culture. That description is incomplete. The more revealing way to understand Marvel is not as a storytelling achievement, but as an institutional innovation. What Marvel built was not simply a franchise. It was a modular production system that transformed filmmaking from a sequence of risky one-off projects into a coordinated industrial process. This shift matters because film has historically been one of the most volatile creative industries in existence. Individual movies are expensive, success is unpredictable, and failure can be catastrophic. Traditional studio models concentrated risk at the project level. Each film stood largely on its own. A single misfire could erase years of profit. Marvel rewired that risk profile. The core insight was simple but radical. Treat films not as standalone products, but as interchangeable modules within a larger narrative and financial architecture. Once that move was made, everything else followed. At the center of this system sat a coordinating authority, not a single auteur, but a centralized creative and strategic function that governed tone, continuity, casting, and long-term narrative direction. Individual directors were granted latitude, but within tightly defined boundaries. Creative freedom existed, but it was constrained by system compatibility. This is not an artistic judgment, it is a governance observation. In traditional filmmaking, directors and stars often function as dominant agents. Their preferences shape production decisions, timelines, and budgets. In the Marvel system, authority was reallocated upward. The franchise, not the film, became the primary unit of analysis. This reduced variance. When creative decisions are modularized and standardized, outcomes become more predictable. A single director's failure could not derail the system because the system did not rely on any single director to succeed. The same logic applied to actors. Marvel did not merely cast characters, it signed long-term contracts that locked in talent across multiple films. This reduced renegotiation risk, stabilized costs, and ensured continuity. Characters became durable assets rather than contingent participants. From an institutional perspective, this solved a classic holdup problem. In Hollywood, breakout success often shifts bargaining power to talent after the fact. Sequels become more expensive. Schedules become fragile. Marvel preempted this by structuring commitments before success materialized, converting uncertainty into managed obligation. This was not about underpaying actors. It was about converting future optionality into present coordination. The narrative architecture reinforced this discipline. Marvel films were designed as interconnected story modules. Individual movies had their own arcs, but they also functioned as inputs into a larger system. Post-credit scenes, crossover events, and shared plot lines created interdependence between releases. This interdependence had a financial effect. Audience demand was no longer tied to any single title. Interest accumulated at the franchise level. Viewers did not just watch a movie, they followed a system. This meant that weaker films could be buoyed by anticipation for future installments, while stronger films elevated the entire slate. Risk was pooled. Instead of betting everything on each release, Marvel diversified across a portfolio of interrelated projects. Success and failure were averaged across time. The volatility of individual outcomes mattered less than the stability of the system. Brand management completed the loop. Marvel did not sell movies in isolation. It sold a coherent brand promise. Tonal consistency, visual continuity, and narrative reliability trained audiences to expect a certain experience. That expectation reduced demand uncertainty. From a governance standpoint, brand functioned as an enforcement mechanism. Directors, writers, and producers operated within a shared framework that protected the brand even when creative decisions varied. Deviations were permitted only insofar as they did not break system compatibility. This is why Marvel could rotate creative personnel without collapsing audience trust. Contrast this with traditional blockbuster production. A single miscast lead, tonal mismatch, or narrative failure can sink an entire project. Because films are independent, there is no system to absorb error. Each release is a fresh gamble. Marvel changed the payoff structure by modularizing production, centralizing oversight, and committing to long-term planning. The system shifted from high-variance bets to managed throughput. Films became units of output rather than singular artistic risks. This does not mean creativity disappeared. It means creativity was constrained, and constraint is often what enables scale. The factory analogy is uncomfortable for some observers because it challenges romantic notions of art, but institutionally, Marvel's approach resembles other high-reliability systems: aircraft manufacturing, semiconductor fabrication, pharmaceutical pipeline. Complex outputs are broken into standardized processes. Quality is enforced upstream. Variation is permitted only where it does not threaten system integrity. The payoff is resilience. When one Marvel film underperformed, the franchise survived. When one character failed to resonate, the universe adjusted. The system was not brittle because it was not dependent on singular outcomes. This is the deeper lesson. Marvel's dominance was not inevitable, it was engineered. The innovation was not special effects or storytelling alone. It was the governance structure that minimized downside, while preserving enough creative variation to maintain interest. That structure also explains why replication has proven difficult. Other studios attempted shared universes without building the institutional scaffolding first. They chased interconnected narratives without central coordination. The result was fragmentation, inconsistency, and audience fatigue. Modularity without governance fails. The Marvel Cinematic Universe succeeded because it aligned incentives across creative talent, executives, and audiences. It reduced agency conflicts by clearly defining authority. It converted uncertainty into managed process. In doing so, it transformed filmmaking from episodic risk into serialized production. Whether this model produces better art is a separate question, but as an institutional design, it is one of the most consequential innovations in modern entertainment. The Marvel Cinematic Universe is not just a franchise, it is a case study in how modular production, centralized governance, and brand discipline can reshape an industry built on uncertainty. For continued institutional analysis of creative industries, organizational design, and risk management at scale, subscribe.